there's a sawed-off shotgun under my station. If anything pops off, just shoot first and ask questions later. And he's like, you're in the Wild West now.
Oh my God.
That was my first day in Vegas, and I was like, I don't know what I just walked into. It was running with the devil, and it was like 101 degrees at the start of it. So it was at 6 a.m. I started running, and I did 50 miles
straight
in the desert. Yeah. It's funny because if I see other people do it, I'm like, oh, that's really fun. But when I go to do it, I'm like, but I feel dumb doing it. Like, even though I love watching it.
Welcome to Support Your Local Tattooer. This is Austin Spencer, and today I'm super excited about a longtime buddy of mine, a fantastic local tattooer, an accomplished marathon runner, health nut, rock climber, traveler, an all-around fantastic, kind dude. Did I say fantastic twice?
You can never say that.
Yeah, I know. I think so. So welcome Nick Bones. He's my dude. So basically what we do, we just kind of get into the nitty-gritty. I like learning about people's past. I love how all of us have these unique, weird, funky stories about how the hell we got into this weird-ass industry and how we survived, what makes us unique. And you have so many fun things to offer, and I've always admired like your ability to stay in one place, focus on your niche. You're never afraid to grow and go. So I don't know, I just kind of want to hear a little bit about like where you came from. You started at tattooing in Las Vegas, right? Or no?
I did my apprenticeship in Ohio. So I learned in Ohio, and then I moved to Vegas as soon as I was done with my apprenticeship, basically.
You weren't at Truth and Triumph, were you? Or no?
No, it was pre-Truth and Triumph. At the time, Truth and Triumph was called Smart Bomb, but I learned in Oxford, Ohio.
Okay.
So I grew up in a small town in Ohio, in Middletown, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just the middle of Cincinnati and Dayton. So it's like...
Yeah, like a suburb. Or,
okay. And then
drive.
I went to school in a farm suburb of that small town.
Okay.
So
like itty bitty town.
Yeah, so I was definitely like the weird kid in high school who just... I did good in school, but I just didn't click with anybody. And so I would just kind of stick to myself and like maybe 3 or 4 people, and I would just like hang out and draw. And we were all like the punk rock kids in this small area.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was drawing my whole life. As soon as I was like holding a pencil, I was trying to draw things, and always obsessed with cartoons and comic books. And I thought I wanted to do something in that field growing up. And then I remember watching a documentary about like how Disney cartoons are made, and I was like, this looks terrible. Like, unless you're the man who's designing it, like you're just the middler. Like a factory. And you just like, they give you the keyframes and you draw all the middle frames. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe comics. And I was like, looked into that, and I was like, well, that's really hard to get into. And so I kind of was just like, the arts in small towns aren't super supported.
Yeah.
So the whole time I was thinking about wanting to be an artist, like, you know, like everybody around me is like, well, what factory are you going to work at while you draw? You know, like that's basically your only option in that small town. And so I was just like, well, I'm not going to do that, but I don't know what to do with art. And then as I got later in high school, I found myself in the punk rock community, and people would come to me to be like, hey, can you design this tattoo for me? Like, I have an idea for a tattoo. Yeah. And so I would draw their tattoos and then go with them while they got it tattooed. And I was like, wait, why are you paying this dude for my art? Like, what?
That's my same exact story, too, dude. That's rad. I didn't know that. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I really want to get an apprenticeship. And I had a friend who was a piercer at a shop. And so I reached out to him. We played music together. And I was like, hey, I really want to get an apprenticeship. I want to do this right. Like, I don't want to just get stuff and tattoo a home. And at the time, this is 2003, 2004, like, it was hard to get stuff. Yeah. Like, you had to get it sent to a tattoo shop, like Cam, or, you know, like, they wouldn't just send to a house at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, well, I really want to get an apprenticeship. Like, I don't know what to do. And so I went in and talked to the owner of that shop, and he was going to apprentice me. And I didn't know anybody in tattooing at the time.
Yeah.
And there were 2 tattoo shops in my town.
No tattoos yourself or anything. Like,
Yeah, I'd not gotten any tattoos at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and so
was he intimidating?
it was so intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just a big biker dude, you know,
Okay,
like it was.
Just trying to paint the picture there.
Yeah, like
just standard.
the cliche Midwest like biker tattoo shop.
Yeah.
And I walk in and he's like, you know, I have like the little portfolio of like comics that I've drawn and stuff. And he looked through and he was like, yeah, I can teach you. And he was like, tell you what, I'm actually trying to open my own tattoo shop. So let me give you a list of supplies that you have to buy for me. And then I'll teach you to tattoo. And I was like, okay. And so he just like basically had me like buy everything to open a tattoo shop for him. That was my way in.
Like from Walmart or whatever?
It was like from Cam.
Oh,
yeah. So it was just like, yeah, like here's the stuff you have to buy. And I was like, okay. And so just like ordered a bunch of stuff, and then I paid him, I think it was at the time it was like $2,000 or something.
Oh, damn.
Which was a lot of money when
Yeah,
you're
where'd you get the
19.
cash?
I was working.
Working, okay.
Yeah, I was working
Oh, you're
at like a
19,
gas station and
Okay.
stuff. And so I was just like desperate. So I was like, okay, well, took me so long, and I finally saved up the money and gave it to him. And then I just never heard from him again. And so it was like 3 weeks later, and I was like, reached out to my friend. I was like, hey, have you heard from this guy? Like, I don't know what's going on. And he goes like, oh yeah, he died of a heroin overdose.
Holy shit.
Like, he took all your money and bought drugs and then passed away. And I was like,
Oh, that's fucked.
can I get my money back? Like, I don't know what to do. So I was just like, oh, okay. And so that was my first attempt at an apprenticeship, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm totally lost right now. And
I don't know if
so
you've ever told me that story before.
yeah. And then I finally, while I was doing that, I ended up getting this leopard print tattooed on me by a friend of a friend who we ended up becoming like, you know, closer friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I could apprentice under this guy, but like really he wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I just need a way in.
Yeah. Damn.
And so I talked to his shop, and it was the same thing. Like, okay, it was $2,000. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. And so I was saving up the money, and I had like, I think $1,500 or something. And then one of my friends came to one of our punk rock shows, and he had this like new tattoo like right on top of his arm, and it was incredible. It was like the best tattoo that I'd seen in this small town ever in my life. And I was like, where did you get that? And he was like, oh, it's Oxford. It was like an hour away from where we lived.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I literally went there the next day, and I was like, I saw this tattoo you did on my friend Brandon. It was the best tattoo I've ever seen. I need you to teach me to tattoo. And he was super kind about it. And it was the same thing, you know, like you have to pay, but you can just pay me in installments. Just come in and I'll teach you. And it was a little 2-man shop, super tiny in this town, Oxford, called Vertigo Tattoo. And they were both like exactly my pace. Like they were like, the owner used to own a comic book store and then started tattooing. And then the guy who taught me to tattoo, who actually ended up like teaching me to tattoo, was like super into comics and new school stuff and like
that's great.
reading books and so it was like meant to be like so then I ended up apprenticing there. That was where I finally like went through with it.
How long did you guys go along with that for?
It was, my apprenticeship was like 2.5, 3 years.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it was, I started working there like the last year ish, but I don't really, I still count it as part of my apprenticeship.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Did you do the whole like learn how to make needles of a ball?
all of it. Everything. So that was the first year of my apprenticeship, was just like, you come in, you count the needles. If there's less than, I think it was if there's less than 10 of them, you make 20 of that needle.
Okay.
And so you just like
cool.
go through it.
Inventory system?
So
All
like
right.
you count and you're like, okay, there's 9. I have to make 20 of those. And then you count and you're like, there's 9 of those too.
Yeah.
So like,
were they reusing the needles at the time?
no, the bars. They were using the bars. So you had to like unsolder the needle off the bar and then scrub it and then make that. But
that was some weird shit.
Looking back at it, like it's so like, oh, just throw everything away. It's 8 cents. Like it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I guess all of our dental tools and doctor tools back in the day were all reused anyway, too.
Yeah.
But it was, some people don't know about that.
So, it was all steel tubes, all, you know, like I did the whole old school thing where, you know, you're in this little tiny closet with no ventilation, like just
Dude,
inhaling
breathing
flux.
solder. Yeah, the flux
Yeah.
and solder. Like, I did
Yeah.
that way too much, actually.
And I was in like the hardcore scene, so it was like basketball shorts every day, and you'd be soldering, and then you'd like drop solder and go straight through your basketball shorts, and you're like, okay, well, those are ruined.
Dang, that's fun. So shit, like, okay, so you did all that for a while, and your relationships are pretty good and healthy with those guys?
Yeah,
Was it
yeah,
two
I'm
guys
still,
that were there?
yeah, it was 2 guys there, and so actually, Kelly Sievertson,
Yeah.
he apprenticed there too. So he
Oh,
came
okay.
on while I was doing my apprenticeship and became the piercer at that shop.
Oh, wow.
And so he was piercing while I was tattooing, and like we were both like apprenticing together basically.
Yeah.
And then when I moved away, he decided he wanted to start tattooing, and so he
Dang,
apprenticed there.
Dude, that's the second. It's so weird. Sometimes the piercer, you get it, they got their foot in the door through piercing.
Yeah.
But sometimes they become some of the most phenomenal tattooers.
Dude.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I was tattooing there. It was it was probably a few months before I moved to Vegas, and I didn't even know he drew. He was going to, it was an old college town, and he was going to that college for metalsmithing. And so he was getting his master's degree in like being a metalsmith.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I didn't even know he drew. But I mean, he's going to art school, so I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. But I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. And I was tattooing, and somebody walked in and wanted some random tattoo. I don't remember what it was. And he was like, he came up and he was like, "Can I draw it for you while you're tattooing and for the next tattoo?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
like, go
yeah.
ahead." And then he shows it to me, and it's the best drawing.
Yeah,
and I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you piercing?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this doesn't
yeah,
make any
yeah.
sense." And so, yeah, once I moved away, he ended up apprenticing, and
Okay.
and then now he is what he is. You know,
Yeah, he's
like,
fantastic
incredible.
tattooer. Dude, you have some like Ohio ties to some really great tattooers too. And were
Yeah.
you were my like link to Ohio, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I've still to this day always am like, why is everybody so fucking nice from Ohio? Like everybody's,
Yeah.
or at least the ones we're meeting.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
all
are
the
so
ones that
kind.
I would be friends with.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Robbie, Big Me's.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Kelly's in Chicago now, but he was from
Josh
Ohio.
and,
And yeah, like all those dudes. Like,
Yeah.
Stanball, Nick Stanball.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
like
he's
all
down in
those
Florida
dudes.
now?
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
it's really funny because they were all, like, Robbie, I grew up with him. Like, I knew him in middle school.
Robbie Bauer. Right?
Yeah, Rob Wild on
Yep.
Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were good friends growing up. And so he started tattooing right around the same time I did.
Yeah. Now him and Josh have Rebel and
Yeah.
they're in Dayton?
Yeah, they're in proper Dayton.
Yeah,
downtown
okay.
Dayton. Yeah.
And then Big Me's shop's in Dayton now too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then
He had one in Columbus, and then he sold, like, that was like
Oh,
a
he
partnership.
did. Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
I
he
forgot
sold
about
that,
that.
and then you bought like a building in Dayton.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Go Me's. We love you.
Yeah.
Dang. Dude, that's tight. So then how did you, get the wild hair up your ass? I remember some of your stories are pretty goddamn funny about you moving to Vegas and like
Yeah.
getting your initial like intro to a shop was on Las Vegas Boulevard
Yes.
on the north side, which is
Yeah.
it's still kind of rough, but back
It
then
was real rough.
fucking rough,
Yeah.
dude.
So while I was doing my apprenticeship, I was dating a hairstylist who was in school, and we both finished like right around the same time.
Hairstylists
just
and tattooers,
I
dude.
know.
It's
I
like
know. Yeah. Yeah.
trouble.
And so we just knew we wanted to leave Ohio. Like
Okay.
my whole life, I was just like, this isn't. I love my friends,
Yeah.
but I don't want to live here. Like
Yeah.
everybody outside of my group, I don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I just knew that growing up. Like I would ask. I was raised by my aunt, and I would ask her all the time. Like we'd go on vacation. Like, why are we going back?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand this. Like, this is cool here. Let's stay here.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I just want to live somewhere outside of Ohio. And so my girlfriend at the time finished cosmetology school, and I was like, well, where do you want to go? And so we literally just Googled, like, where does an Ohio cosmetology license transfer to?
Oh, okay.
And so that's where we picked. It was New York or Nevada. It was like just straight, no more
You can just
continuing
show up.
education.
Yeah.
Like you
Okay.
can just transfer it. And so she was like, well, my mom is from Las Vegas. I don't know anybody there, but I know I technically have family there. So let's go out there. And so we literally like flew out. It was the first year Hell City was in Phoenix. I don't know what year that's 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, I
2007.
can't remember.
And so we flew to LA and then drove to Phoenix just to go to Hell City because I was like, I just want to like talk to some people from Vegas before I go there and get some advice, and I want to go to Hell City.
Yeah.
And so we went there, and just like that was the biggest convention. Like if you talk to people who went to it, like that was like the convention.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I just went up and I talked to Jimmy Litwalk because he was tattooing here at the time, and I was like, "Hey, what advice do you have? Like, I want to move to Las Vegas. Like, where do I go?" And he had a few shops that he recommended. He was like, "You just need to get experience." Like, because I had my portfolio with me, you know, and he was like, "Your work's fine. You just need experience. Like, you just need to tattoo. Go somewhere busy. Don't worry about the name or like, you know, the reputation. Just get work." And so he gave me a few places to go to, and that was really cool, like getting to talk to your idols.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually have little moments with him too where he's offered like game changer advice where it was like woke me up. I was like, oh,
yeah,
you're fucking right. Okay, I'm dumb. I should be doing this.
Yeah. And so then we came up to Vegas, and I went to like every shop I could think of. This was back in the days when I didn't have a smartphone, so I just opened the phone book and just went through and called every tattoo shop. Like, hey, are you looking for an artist? Like, I'm looking to move here. And then I ended up calling one shop called Absolute Ink. It's not even there anymore. Joey Hefts was the artist there. He was Joey Vegas at the time.
Okay.
He owns Reverence Tattoo now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was the artist there.
No shit.
And so he was like, "Hey, come on down." And I was like, "Okay." So I brought my portfolio, and he was like, "Yeah, your work's okay. Like you're just out of your apprenticeship. That's what your work looks like."
Yeah.
And he was like, "But we talked for like an hour just about how much I loved tattooing." And I was like, "I just really want to get in a place where I can like continue to learn and like grow." And he was like, "Okay, when can you start?" And I was like, "I gotta go to Ohio and pack all my stuff up and move back." And I was like, "A month?" And he was like, "Okay, cool, you got it. Yeah. Like, you're in." And it was like Las Vegas Boulevard in Charleston. I'm so excited. Like, I got a job in Vegas on the Strip, you know? Like, I didn't know any better. And so I fly back to Ohio, and we're like starting to plan for like, okay, we have a month to pack everything up and figure everything out and find a place. And the owner of that shop calls, and he was like, "Hey, I heard Joey offered you a job." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, he didn't have the right to do that." He was like, "He's not the owner. Like, he's just an artist here." And I was like, "Oh." And he was like, "But he explained who you are and how excited you were. I'm going to give you a shot." And I was like, okay. Like, I'll take it. And he was like, "But I need you here in a week."
Oh, shit.
And so I was like, "I'm there. Like, whatever I have to do." And so we literally just sold. We had a PT Cruiser at the time, and we just packed up everything that fit in the PT Cruiser and sold everything that didn't fit for like nothing. And then just drove out, and I get to the shop. He's like, "Okay, Joey's in jail. That's why I needed you here." So it's like,
he was wild back then.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole thing. Yeah. But so that was why he hired me, was because he needed me to cover him while he was going to jail for 30 days.
Oh, okay.
And so that's literally how I got my job in Las Vegas, is because Joey was going to jail.
And you jumped right in there as the main artist?
Yeah. Like, it was
the owner dude a tattooer at the time?
He was a tattooer, but he was never there.
Oh, okay.
And so literally my first day tattooing outside of my apprenticeship at this like nerdy comic book owned, where everybody was on the same page. Like, I show up, and there's one artist who, it was like 10 to 6, one artist, and then 6 to 2 a.m. And I was the 6 to 2 a.m. guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I show up at 5 to get set up and everything, and the dude was like, "Oh, you're here. I'm going to take off." And literally just left me at the shop alone by myself my very first day.
Oh my God. In a rough ass neighborhood.
In a rough neighborhood.
Like,
yeah.
It's still real wild there.
And
when that door opens, you're almost excited but terrified at the same time.
Yeah, I'm like, which one's it going to be? How's this going to go? Like, I don't really know.
I don't want to buy meth or your stolen fucking shopping cart TV.
And at the time, I had dreadlocks like down to here.
Oh, yeah.
And so everybody who walked by, because it was before weed was legal, and they would walk in and be like, "Hey, man, where can I get some weed?" And I'm like, "I'm straight edge. Like, I don't know. Like, this is deceiving. I know." And they would just be like, "No, you can... I'm cool, man. You can tell me. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I genuinely don't know. I've been here for a day.
Yeah.
And so I walk in the door, the guy leaves, and then we just start getting walk-ins. And I just tattoo all night. And it's like
Just
literally
bangers,
like 2:30, and I'm finally finishing my last tattoo. And the owner calls and he's like, how was your first day? And I was like, scary. Like, I was terrified. And he was like, oh man, do you own a gun? And I was like, no. I've never even touched one. Like, why are you asking?
Damn.
And he's like, well, there's a sawed-off shotgun under my station. If anything pops off, just shoot first and ask questions later. And he's like, you're in the Wild West now.
Oh my god.
That was my first day in Vegas, and I was like, I don't know what I just walked into.
Oh my
So that was
God.
my first day tattooing in Vegas.
Yeah, and then it got progressively weirder, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's some good
There's-
walk-ins there.
Yeah, there were good walk-ins, and then by the time I was there for like a year and a half, and Joey had left at this point, so it was like
Oh, okay.
just me and like one other artist, and like it ended up getting super weird with that owner. Like I'd never dealt with somebody who was on drugs before.
Oh,
like
he himself was.
Yeah,
okay.
and so like I never experienced like what meth does to a person's mind.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
he was a
like,
tweaker.
yeah.
That's not good. That's not
And
good.
so he comes in one day and he's just like, he had fired everybody except for me. Like I was literally the only artist. And so I would at that time I started working like noon to midnight. Like I was just there all day.
Yeah.
Like every day. And I was just like, is this normal? Like I don't know. This doesn't seem normal. But I don't know what else to do. So he had fired everybody, and then he fired the apprentice like the day before. I don't know why there was an apprentice there anyway. And then he comes in, he's like, I figured it out. I was like, what'd you figure out? And he had fully convinced himself that I was a spy from another tattoo shop down the street because he found a business card after we closed. Like that shop had just walked by and like stuck a business card on our gate.
Yeah.
And that convinced him that I was a spy from another tattoo shop sent here to steal his identity and take over his tattoo shop. And he knows that the owner of that shop just recently bought the house that he's renting, and he's going to kick him out of his house and his shop and take over everything all at once. And meanwhile, I'm just like taking my pictures off the wall and just putting them on my toolbox. Like, cool, man. I'm glad you figured it out. You want to help me load this up in my car? Because I'm never going to talk to you again.
Ow, bro.
Yeah.
So that was your last day there?
That was my last day
Nothing
there.
lined up. You were just like,
No, I had
all right,
no. It was that was on a Friday, and I was just like, I'm taking the weekend off, and then I'll figure it out on Monday. Like I don't know what's gonna happen.
So he was just doing the old school like pay you out every day, like cash
Yeah,
at the end of
yeah.
the day
So
type
yeah,
shit?
it was cash only,
Okay.
and then I just would do a drop every day and just keep the cash like that I made.
Did you guys even write like anything on slips or anything, or it was just literally like
It was on the envelope. It was like, here's how much is in here. Like, yeah,
No,
it wasn't
like,
even like
breakdown of
broken down.
tattoos
Yeah, I
or
don't think
anything?
so. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just literally like, here's $600,
and he would just
Bye.
get high and come in and try to open that box.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just trying to get whatever out of it. God
Yeah.
damn, people are wild. It's so crazy how people can run businesses like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And
hard
I
enough
think-
to run it sober.
And so I showed up, and it was the shop had been there for 10 years. And so I was like, oh, this is well established,
Right.
you know? And it was probably, the first 5-6 years, he was probably like on it.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was there, by the time I left there, like he tattooed once a month,
damn.
So,
That's-
but I had really cool experiences with that guy up till that point.
Yeah.
Like that was he had the mobile tattoo truck. So
wow.
we would go to bike rallies and I would tattoo with him. Like the one summer I was there, like we went and tattooed in Hollister, we went and tattooed up in like Northern California. We went and did Sturgis together. Like we did Reno. Like
okay.
we would travel around in this like Snap-on truck that he turned into a tattoo shop. And I was like, this is the coolest experience ever.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so we got super close like over that. And then just one day it just went downhill.
Did you tour with bands back in the day? Or
Yeah,
you were in music and
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of were accustomed to that type of lifestyle, just kind of adapted it to like a new thing where you can make cash.
Yeah.
I always had a hard time like imagining you with these bikers because you're
Oh, it was the worst. Yeah, I did not fit in at all.
just
like,
clean cut. Fucking,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good at. I'm kind of a chameleon.
Yeah.
Where I can kind of just mesh with anything, but like that was definitely like I know how to talk to them the way they want to be talked
Yeah,
to, but
which
it's
is-
so like out of my comfort zone.
For sure,
You know?
for sure. And you're good at taking it as it comes at you, like all the weird shit, you know. And I think is a skill set in its own, just being around all those fucking people.
Yeah.
And not letting it kind of phase you and just run up.
Yeah, just roll right back with it, you know.
And just get through it, whatever, bro. Like,
Yeah. But I think that's why I do so good at tattooing in like street shop situations, is because
Yeah.
I can, when somebody walks in, I can be like, this is how this person wants me to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I can just sell myself the way they want to be talked to. And
just show genuine interest in whatever,
yeah,
you know, you're just like,
and that's the
you
thing
like
too,
learning, so.
I know a little bit about everything.
Yeah,
And so when
dude.
somebody walks in, I'm like, oh, I know what that's from, and I know this, and we can like relate really quick.
Which is, dude, it's so hard for some people, and some people don't even attempt, you know, like the headphone generation or whatever you want to call it. Some people
Yeah.
are just like, I'm the best, and then they take their headphones off and just it's this much.
Yeah, go over there.
Be my assistant. You're like, okay, tight, but I feel like there's something lost there, but that's just my approach and my opinion.
Right, that's the world we grew up in wasn't like that.
No, you weren't even allowed to be. Dude, heaven forbid if I was in a shop fucking and I had headphones on.
Yeah.
And I wasn't listening to this.
Also, we would have to have a chord mixed up in other chords.
That's true. Yeah. And the fucking Slayer album that's been on repeat for 14 hours straight, and my boss is a tweaker. Not a tweaker, but definitely some traits. I'm like, okay, man, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
Like, the Slayer for fucking 14 hours is exhausting, tattooing under like neon light and like you're like, is this blue or is this green? I don't know what's going on.
You have to read the bottle. You're like, okay, I guess it is teal.
and tattooing around bikers was pretty wild.
Yeah.
But so it's like so much more pleasant tattooing around your tribe nowadays.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it was like, I'm so glad I have the experience because now I know what I don't want to ever do again.
I had the opportunity to open up small shops inside of Harley dealerships, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the money.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That doesn't sound appealing.
Try to find tattooers that want to sit there and do Harley shields on tourists all day long, because that's the hardest fucking tattoo ever made.
Yeah.
If you've ever tattooed a Harley shield on anybody, it's the fucking worst.
It's like 700 perfectly parallel lines.
And I've fucked it up more than one time.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're like, what'd be cool is if we shaded half these letters and then also the background.
Can we make this out of stone? So I can make that was my go-to for everything. Can you make it out of stone?
It
would be so unique.
Yeah.
You would be so different from everybody.
Except for the other 10 that I did exactly like this.
That was always after I blew out the line, or the fucking line just didn't be pulled away, wipe the ink.
Or they reach for something and you're like, you know what? Actually, it's so now. You don't even have a choice.
You're good, dude. This is really cool, man. Nobody has this. Didn't you end up going onto the strip? After that? So you were like on the strip and not in a casino back in the day.
So I went to like the Diversity family of shops for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I worked at Tattoo Heaven for
which was just a little closer to the
and so I did that
still
for a
rough
little
and
while.
Wild as
That was even crazier.
Yeah,
that was like Sahara and
that's where they filmed all bum fight stuff.
Those dudes walk by all the time. And so
bums
I was
would
there,
lock themselves in there in your shop and shit. It's fucking
and
weird.
that was the first time I really experienced like cutthroat tattooers, where they were just like, the rule is the first artist that shows up gets the first walk in. And so they would show up like 2 hours early because they had a key and I didn't. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get that leg up?
Damn.
And so they would take the first walk in, and then the next person who walked in, they'd be like, oh, this is my appointment. I'm like, you had an appointment and you still took the first walk in? And then you'd find out that wasn't actually an appointment. That was just another walk in. They just walked up like they knew them. And then it was like, so that was the first time I really experienced that. And I was like, I thought
that's a different
you're
kind of
supposed to like
culture.
work with your friends. Like, this is so weird.
Those are why I never actually got to work in those shops, but I was aware of. I worked in a shop that was similar, but it wasn't as aggressive. Like on the strip, it was all fucking go. Like you grab that money, dude. It was like one of the more motivated tattooer cultures, though.
It was. Like, everybody's there early.
Yeah, they don't even want to get up and go walk to talk to the walk-in. Just like But
so I was there for a little while. I didn't last long because I just didn't have the right mentality for it. Like, I'm like, I just want to be friendly with my coworkers and like hang out and like, this isn't for me. And so then I left there and went inside the Riviera. back when the Riviera was there was a Three Lions tattoo shop in there.
Yeah.
And that's where I met like most of the people who I'm still friends with in Vegas
today. Yeah, because they were cranking out a lot of apprentices.
It was
an
apprentice factory for sure.
Yeah.
But all the apprentices they picked just happened to be incredible.
Stellar.
Yeah, so it was like Tyson, Kelsey, Holly, Jesse, Dracula tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Leah, Ryan Gray, like all the people in Vegas, like they were all the apprentices in that shop. Like it was crazy. It was like so much talent, like in the apprentices.
Yeah, and that was a little tiny tattoo shop on the casino floor, which was it more one of the first ones that were in the casinos?
It was early. Yeah. So I mean, there was the Starlight.
Okay,
stuff,
Mario Bart's opened up.
And then what was the one in the Palms?
Hard Huntington.
Hard Huntington. Right. So it was Hard Huntington.
Hard Huntington was the first. Yeah.
And then that was like one of the first ones, and it was a weird culture, but it was cool. And then that's where I started working with Mike.
Okay, Mr. Biggs.
Yeah.
And the owner of that shop was like an entrepreneur himself too, right? Did he like have that and a bar and a...
Yeah, he had a pub and something else. Like he had
he the one that created the aftercare?
Yeah.
Company?
So he did. Yeah, he had an aftercare. Before that, he had like a suntan lotion, and then he like just pivoted into aftercare once he got into tattooing. And I don't know what he's doing now, but he's always has like 3 or 4.
No shit. It's a character.
Yeah.
And he kind of let you guys do whatever the fuck you want in that shop?
Yeah, he didn't know what it was supposed to be like.
Okay.
Like he didn't understand like what a tattoo shop was supposed to be run like. He's like, oh, it's probably just chaos. Go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so I had met Mike through First Friday, Mike Biggs.
Yeah.
Through First Friday, I'd done one of his group art shows like the month that I moved here.
Oh, cool.
And I was just like, this dude's art is incredible. I just want to be friends with him.
Yeah.
And so I did a art, like just the most terrible acrylic painting ever.
Yeah.
For like but it was sci-fi themed and whatever. And then it's funny, he came to my 40th birthday last month and gave me that painting back.
What?
That was his present. He had kept it all this time.
That's funny.
But I had met him through that, and then I bought another painting off of him while I was working at that shop. And he was like, yeah, I just started tattooing a little bit with my cousin. And I was like, you should come work with me.
Yeah.
I had no right or like qualifications to be able to hire him, but I was just like, you should come work with me. And so then him and I just like worked the same schedule and just like became best friends like over like the year that he worked there with me.
Yeah. You got any like funny or weird stories that pop off about just the interactions with clients there? Because I remember you guys telling me just like a lot of weird different cultures that came through there because of like a trade show would be in town. So maybe like a bunch of pool players or
So we would do just flash sheets based on whatever the convention was.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And just like so DEF CON, the hacker convention would come through and like we'd have a bunch of nerdy art up and like there would be a teachers convention and we would just do a bunch of like apples and teacher type flash, and it was just like you would know what convention was coming and you would just like draw to cater to them.
Yeah, and that was nobody's ideas but y'all's. Like that just kind of like a culture that created inside within the artist.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad time, it was fine.
Were your hours crazy there too, or did you get on more of a regular schedule?
It was long. Like it was open late. You know, like they actually, because it was a casino, they had to be open like X to X. Like whatever, like time. And so, but me and Mike just worked the morning shift, so we would do 10 to 6.
Oh,
yeah. So
dang,
it was
nice.
rad. Yeah.
Huh. All right. Cool. And then from there, did you come over to Studio 21?
Straight to Studio 21. Yeah, because you hired Mike.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then like
because I knew Mike by growing up here in Las Vegas, so yeah.
And so he came to me and he was like, "I'm so sorry, but they're hiring me." And at that time, like I knew who you guys were, like just from being in tattooing in Las Vegas, like that was one of the shops, And then he was like, "Yeah, they asked me to come work." they asked me to come work with them, and he was like super afraid to tell me, thinking he's like betraying me, like leaving me. And I was like, no, dude, that's awesome. Like that's the coolest thing ever. Like that's one of the big shops in Vegas. Like that's a big name, And so he got hired there, and then he would like call me like every week and be like, "Hey, we're doing an art show at this theme. You should come do it." Because that was when we were doing the first Friday every month.
Oh,
we had the gallery.
Yeah.
And so he was like, this is the theme for the art show. Just do a couple paintings. And so I'd like do a couple paintings and come bring him like, hey, there's my artwork.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah.
And then like, I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, I ended up working there with you too.
Yeah, jumped in and
Yeah.
shit, we did 10 years together, right?
11.
11?
Yeah, 11 years.
Yeah, dang. That's impressive. That's fun.
And that, like, Studio 21 is really where I honed everything. You know, like, that's where I was working with artists that were so much better than me. So I was just like, okay, I gotta step it up. And 2, I can learn a lot from just, watching everybody and asking questions. And it was, like, real communal, you know.
Yeah, we had
art shows together and stuff.
Yeah,
all the time.
monthly art shows, and we had a good habit of every single time there was like if we weren't tattooing, we would go to the back room and paint. Like
yeah.
And the second you started painting, of course, then someone would walk in, which is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Or there would be like a rainy day type shit where we all would just paint like all afternoon.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. All my best friends now I met.
Yeah,
you know, they're like Swarm.
Yeah,
you know, like
wild,
he was there
yeah.
the whole time I was there, basically, and then Jason Paxman, like still close to him.
Yeah.
Like
I could have game on too.
Yeah, and then you know Biggs, obviously.
Yeah,
still really close with him.
That's fun. We did a lot of fun things together. When we traveled at that time, we were doing. So you took me back to Ohio.
Yeah, we went did the Hell City there
for tattoo. That's something we did for Tattoo Fight Club.
Yeah.
And then we did like Boston and Did we do quite a bit together?
We did a couple. Yeah. So I think we did like Austin or something.
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah, I was doing a lot at that time.
Yeah, and we all kind of rotated out because not everybody could leave. Remember? So but yeah, I did a handful of conventions with you. And
do you do much conventions anymore? Or?
I do like 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
The culture's changed down.
It is. I want to start doing more because I have like a 2-year plan. As of this month, our lease is up in 2 years. So like we're building out that camper van, and I just want to like travel for like 2 years and just tattoo on the road. Yeah,
I'm super excited about that for you.
Yeah. So
tell me about a little bit about that vision, because like you've never lived like full fledged like a vagabond yet, right? Like,
no, I mean in the bands, you know, when I was touring and stuff, that was kind of like that, but I've never in a way where it was affordable, like where you can actually, you know, support yourself and stuff. So
how are you gonna line up your
I'm still kind of
guest spots?
I want to start doing more conventions now so that I can meet more people and make more connections, and that I can kind of plan for, you know, 2 years from now, if I'm doing a bunch of conventions, hopefully I meet enough people to do guest spots like across, like I just want to travel. Like I love traveling, and so I'm building out a massive Sprinter van right now.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
You've had it for a while.
I have,
project, but. And
now I have I made myself set a dedeadline. So it's like, okay, it has to be done by this day, so I can finally so it's going to be fully livable, like, and I just want to do, it's scary. I mean, change is always scary. Yeah. But like, it's scary to think like, okay, well, I've spent my entire, my real career in Vegas.
Yeah.
So now to just be like, okay, well, I have super steady clientele here, but like, now I have to leave. Yeah. So like, I want to like.
You could work it into where you have like, you know, you
that's
tour
kind
up
of my
and then
plan.
tour back down.
Yeah,
and then
so that's my plan. Is just like fill my book for like 2 weeks. Yeah,
and then as much as you absolutely love like rock climbing and stuff, I'm assuming you want to go to some like epic spots.
Yeah.
So then maybe start DMing all the shops in those areas.
That's
and then
it.
That way that kind of puts you there.
Yeah.
And then you can get in there, work, go do your thing with the rock climbing, and jump back in the van, and then maybe go to the next spot and the next spot.
Yeah. So I think with the technology that we have now, where you can just like advertise on Instagram in one geolocation, you know, like I feel like that's going to help a lot. Yeah. It's always scary. Like change is always scary, but I feel like now I can be like, okay, well, here's our tour that we're going to do. You know, we'll be gone for 2 months, and then we'll be back in Vegas for a couple weeks to tattoo everybody. We're going to be here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then I'll just do, you know, advertised Instagram ads for those spots,
Yeah.
and then just kind of show up at the shops. So.
Yeah, build your own. I don't know if you have your own website, but you should.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
build your own website, and then so work on that mailer list, and start just trying to like convince everybody to consistently check up on you through that stuff.
So yeah, I love traveling's like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm going to do a guest spot in Hawaii next.
Oh, okay.
The end of next month. Yeah.
Yeah. What part?
Oahu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went and got tattooed out there like a month ago, and then our friends that lived there wanted us to like house sit for them. And so I just reached out to the shop and I was like, hey, I got tattooed there. I was hanging out with the owner. Like, can I come tattoo? And so I'm going to tattoo there for a week and then just chill for a week.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's tight.
So I'm excited.
So that'll be a little tester.
Yeah.
You know what's weird? I've never done a guest spot. I don't know how long I've been tattooing since, 2000? And I've never, I've just done conventions, and then we opened up, and our shop, and I just was so fucking busy for so long, and I never took advantage of that part of the culture, which kind of is not a regret, but it just didn't work out for me in that way. It doesn't mean I can't do it in the future, so I'm kind of opening, I'm gonna fucking re-put myself out there in those uncomfortable situations where you're intimidated and you get to go in and work in these shops and work around good people and try to revamp my tattooing.
And I think that's where a lot of growth in art and tattooing comes from, is from putting yourself in places where you're scared or where you're nervous. And
anything and everything in life, right? Anytime you do anything new, you're not going to be the greatest at it, but you could at least study and practice and try. I don't know. You got to do it though. If you're not fucking doing it, then you're just stagnant, and that's no fun. And you're a learner. You love to learn.
I love to learn. Yeah. And I love to be scared, and I love to push myself and get outside of my comfort zone. And
that's kind of what I want to talk to you too about. You talked about self-discipline and getting out of your comfort zone. All that is tell us a little bit more about you've always been an avid runner, and were you into the multi-terrain courses, or what do they call those?
The obstacle course races and stuff. Too? I did. That's what actually got me into running.
That's what I thought.
Was starting with those. Okay. Yeah. So I started working at Studio 21, and I wasn't. When I was younger, I was always outside, being active and playing sports and stuff. And then when I got to Vegas, I just kind of that just took a back seat, because I was like, okay, I need to focus on learning how to tattoo. And then I got to Studio 21, got comfortable, started just eating a bunch of junk food. I've been vegetarian since I was 8 years old, but I was a junk food vegetarian for a lot of it. And so I was just getting lazy and eating kind of garbage food, fast food, just whatever.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know if he knows this, but Jesse, the tattooer that I tattooed with at Three Lions, came in one time just to drop off some art for one of our art shows.
Yeah.
And he just walks in, and me and him were always just always messed with each other. And he just walks in, he just looks me up and down, and he goes, "You got fat." And I didn't even register, Yeah, I was just well, I'm stagnant and I'm not doing much.
Yeah.
And he literally just looks me up and down and he goes, "You got fat." And we always just messed with each other, and I was just and just laughed it off, and he left, and I was like, oh my god, I got fat. I've never, my whole life, nobody's ever said that to me, because I've always been skinny.
Yeah.
And so it was just literally that next day, I just had a pair of tennis shoes, and I was like, I'm going to see how far I can run. Yeah. And literally, that he's the one who motivated me to start getting healthy. And
the truth hurts, but most likely helps us.
And I had gone vegan at that point, and
but you
one
didn't
of my
know how to do it.
No,
right?
No. I was just okay, well, I just don't eat cheese.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
Fanny pack full of Twizzlers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You had a mullet and a fanny pack full of Twizzlers.
Yeah. It was just junk food. And so one of my friends I met through being vegan was like, hey, we're doing the Spartan race. Do you want to do it with me and my daughter? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I had no idea what it was. I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Sign me up. And so he did. And then it was 4 weeks out, he sent me a link to it, and I thought it was a 5K fun run thing.
Okay.
It was not. No.
So, they're teasing you in the mud and shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. You're climbing over these walls and jumping into ice baths and swimming underneath things. And
shit.
I was oh, I thought we were running through some bubbles or something. I didn't know. And so
marshmallows.
Yeah. So from the time he sent me that link of what it was to the race was like 4 weeks. And I was like, okay, it's an 8-mile race. I didn't know this.
Damn.
So I was like, I need to add 2 miles every week to be able to run 8 miles. Okay. And so literally, like, I couldn't run a mile at that point.
No shit.
And so I realized my neighborhood was half a mile around. And so I was like, if I can run one of these, I'll let myself walk the next one. And so I just did that until by the time the race came around, I was like up to 8 miles. Like I ran 8 miles like the week before that.
Yeah, that's great, dude.
And then I did that race and I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever done. Like that was like, I feel accomplished right now.
Yeah.
And so then I signed up for a 13-mile one. And then I did 2 years of like the obstacle course / running. And then I realized that running was like the thing that I was really in love with. Yeah. And so I just started seeing how far I could go. And so I started running a little bit more each time. And then I signed up for a half marathon, which was 13 miles.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let me see if I can do that. And so I did it. And I was like, okay, well, I accomplished it. And then I wanted to see how far I could go. I was like, I wonder if I can do a full marathon. Let's just see. And so I started training for that, and then I did a full marathon in Scotland while I was there. It was one of my first one to be like epic.
Yeah.
And so
awesome.
We had this trip to Europe coming up, and I was like, I'm just going to see, we have 1 weekend free. I'm going to see if there are any marathons in Europe that time. And so I was like, okay, well, we can either go to Nottingham, because there's a Robin Hood Marathon, or we can go to Scotland for the Loch Ness Marathon.
Whoa.
And so I just let my girlfriend at the time pick, and so she was like, let's go to Scotland. So I ran the Loch Ness Marathon.
Dang, that's cool.
And it's still to this day my fastest marathon.
Really?
My watch strap broke and I didn't know how fast I was going.
Oh, so you just
I just like
pushing yourself,
picked some guy who I was talking to at the start line, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna run with this guy. And so I'm running and the mile markers are just melting away, and I'm like, oh, they must be kilometers. Like, we're in Europe. Like, they're probably kilometer markers.
Yeah.
And so then we get to the 13.1, which is halfway, and it has a clock. And I was like, oh, I just did my fastest half marathon while running a marathon. I need to slow down. I'm like, not going to be able to finish.
Yeah.
And so it's still like my fastest. It was like 3:40 for my full marathon.
Dang. And you've gone on to push even further, right?
Yeah. So then I did a couple 50Ks, which is like 33 miles. And then I did a 50-miler out here in Vegas. It was the Running with the Devil.
Yeah, the one in Death Valley?
No, well, this is it's like Lovell Canyon.
Oh, okay.
That one, that's like my goal. Is that one in Death Valley.
I think I learned about it through you. Yeah. It's like...
But yeah, so the one that I did was Running with the Devil, and it was like 101 degrees at the start of it. So it was at 6 a.m. I started running, and I did 50 miles straight in the desert. Yeah. Which is, how long did that take you? Because that's like all fucking day, right? It ended up taking me like 12 hours because it was just so hot. Straight. Yeah, just running the whole time. And then I was like, okay, well, I did that. And so I was like, now I want to see if I can do a 100-miler. And so I did the October before last, I did a 100-mile race. 100 fucking mile? Yeah, I did 100 miles, yeah. How does your body take that? Well, it's mad. Yeah, so it's honestly, it's very physical, but it's very mental. Yeah. Like, I went into that race, I was like, I just know I'm going to finish. Like, you just have to know before you even start. Like, I'm going to keep going until I finish. Even my training, like, I didn't train that far. My longest training run was like 18 miles leading into that. Just did a lot of them. But I did a lot, yeah. Okay. So I would do like 2 a week. I would do 2 long runs a week, and then my short runs would be like 10 miles. So like those would be short runs. Damn. Okay. But yeah, going into it, I'm just like, it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. It's going to be the worst pain you've ever felt. You just have to finish. Like, they give you a belt buckle. And so I was like, I'm not leaving without that belt. That fucking belt buckle. Yeah, like I walk that thing. I don't even wear belts that have buckles. Yeah. And so it was 20-mile loops in the middle of the desert in Phoenix. Oh, so you're seeing the same scenery too. Yeah. Is that good or bad? It was good for me. Okay. I liked it. So normally it's like washer style. So you go forward, then backwards, then forward, then backwards. Oh, but it was just post-COVID, and so they didn't want people crossing paths that way. And so they just did 5
laps.
Yeah, 5 loops. And so for me, I like that because I'm like, I know exactly, by the second loop, I have it memorized.
Okay.
So I know exactly what to expect. Like, okay, there's a hill around this curve. Like, I can walk up that. I can do this. Like, I just memorized it. So, but it was really neat because the first loop was at sunrise, and the second loop was like the heat of the day. Third loop was like sunset. Fourth loop was middle of the night, and then the fifth loop was the sun coming up again.
Oh my god.
So it was like, it was a different loop each time, even though like it's the same path. So it was really cool.
That's impressive, dude. It's really
Yeah,
badass. Like
yeah.
I heard you did a big run, but I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So
and
yeah.
that was how long ago?
That was 21.
Okay.
October of 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy when you're describing like what it was like. It's so much like starting a big tattoo. Like, you know, like,
yeah. Your first like back piece.
Yeah.
Going from just like baseball sized tattoos to like a back piece, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how
terrified.
to. Like,
getting one and drawing one too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Similar experiences.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it's not easier just to lay there.
Yeah.
That's, you know, as soon as that needle hits you and your ass fucking clenches up or something.
Yeah, and you're like, I have so much more to go.
yeah. Or starting a painting and feeling like it's horrible. I mean,
Every painting I've ever
only thing I
started.
can think of. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
obviously never ran more than a block, but
Yeah.
the idea of just knowing this is fucking shit and I have to get through this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You just have to be
know.
mentally tough. Like,
You've done it enough times to know you can get through it, and
Yeah.
it's just longer
Yeah,
version,
yeah.
which
like
sounds easier than
things suck, and you just have to push through.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how life is. Like
It
one
is.
of our friends that ran the race with me was from there, trained on that course, like had her nutrition dialed in, like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to keep this pace, I want to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And she was asking me, and I was like, I'm just going to run.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I grabbed some snacks, I have a cooler, and she was like laughing. She was like, what do you mean? Like, what was your longest training run? I was like, 18 miles. And she was like, I did like 50 miles on this course, like, so that I would know everything. And I was like, I know up here I can finish. Like, I'm
Yeah.
now worried about not finishing. I know I can do it because I've been through hard things, and I know that on the other side I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And so I can just
great.
push through. And then at like mile 55, she dropped out. And she had like everything planned to the minute, and like
Just
like
overthought
yeah,
it,
and
and
she just like was like crying like on the last loop, and she was like, I'm in so much pain. And I was like, what, you signed up for a 100-miler? Like, there's gonna be pain. Like, you just
Yeah.
have to, like, it's gonna suck, and then
Yeah.
you have to push through. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I don't care how much pain I'm in. On the other side of it, I'm gonna be happy, and I
Yeah.
know that's where my mind's gonna be, and I just have to do it. And so yeah, so I just like pushed through and finished, and
I love it.
I did the whole thing dressed up like Luigi.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was on Halloween weekend, so I
See,
did
that's
the whole
awesome
thing.
too. Is you go into it like not taking it so fucking serious.
Yeah.
Like, and that maybe helps you get through things in
Yeah.
life. You know, where I'm like, you can't overthink this. I can't even act like I have anything to say that I've like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, other than like running a business is fucking
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah.
And there's so many days where you come home and you may feel like you held it together there, but you're fucking crying on the way home.
Yeah, you're devastated by everything that went on.
And you're
absolutely.
like thinking of every fucking thing you can do to get out of it, but you can't. So yeah, I guess I do have like, you know, like
Yeah.
everything in my head when I start a project these days is like, no, it's like I'm not fucking stopping until like I know I can do it. Like I'm not fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I just know I have to work hard and through all the shit.
Yeah.
And even when you shit your pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't know why you told me one time you had to like run off into the bushes and poop.
Oh, dude, that's a normal occurrence. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Your body is just like
Yeah.
wants
You're
everything
just
out
not,
of it, right?
yeah, it's like between mile 7 and 9, it's just like, I have to plan my route around a bathroom being between 7 and 9. Like, I just have to be able to get to a bathroom.
So you can-
and sometimes you're out in the middle of the woods and you're like, there's no bathroom, but there's a bush over there, and I'm just going to go over there. And I'm going to finish this loop with no sock.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah, I just go. So those are, yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. Dang. So shit. I don't know. That's pretty fucking impressive, though. And it's like, that's one thing I've always, like, absolutely, like, loved about you is, like, your your self-discipline and like focus and getting that shit done is always something you've been spectacular at. It's really
Thank
cool.
you.
It's like,
Thanks.
it's like really impressive. Not too many people can say that they've done that, right? How many people have really accomplished those 100-milers?
Not a lot. So I read a statistic one time where it's like 1% of the population of the world will run a marathon.
Okay. That
And it's
sounds about
like,
right.
like maybe 1% of that percent will do a 100-miler. Like, it's such a niche, small thing. Like, it's getting more popular now.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what the correlation between, like, suffering and putting yourself through things that make you suffer.
Instagram.
Like, being, but, like, but also, like, when things kind of suck, like, you want to be in charge of how much it sucks.
Yeah.
And so I think that pushes people to do things, like, to the extreme a little bit more. So it's like, yeah, things are kind of weird. Like, you can't afford to buy a house right now. Gas is crazy expensive. Food is everything.
Yeah.
There's wars everywhere. Like, everything's, like, stressful. And everything sucks. So I want to be in charge of what sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to run 100 miles. And then it'll suck for me, but I'm doing it. I'm in control of that. I think that's, like, important for a lot of people.
Certainly a hell of a lot healthier than drinking or, or smoking weed.
Yeah.
Or not smoking weed, but smoking meth and fucking trying to run a tattoo shop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just comes from, like, I've been straight edge my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I've never done any of that. And that was from growing up with crazy chaos all over me, too. So I was just like, well, I've been through that, so I can make it through this, too.
Yeah. No, I think that's fucking wild. Yeah. That kind of I'm like still tripping. I'm trying to imagine running off the fucking side and taking a shit and then running another 75 miles.
Yeah.
But one thing too, I've always like admired about you too is like you are really good at you're likable, but you're good about jumping into whatever it is that you're doing and taking part in the communities that are a part of it, you know? So like with the dog culture, you were always real good about being a part of like the pug rescue, or in the vegan culture, you always had like built up a good community of people that practice the same kind of eating habits as you. And you guys all and what comes with that is you're exposing yourself as a tattooer to all these different communities. Yeah. And you're able to build relationships and build clientele and always stay busy. Yeah. Which, I think is really incredibly important. Like, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm not like a world-renowned tattooer or anything, So I get out there and I talk to people and I meet them at the bar, or I meet them at whatever like networks I was in, car shows, or just restaurants of like shit that I would go to, and I'm always willing to like just tell them what I do for a living and say hi and talk about it and listen to them when they're giving me the whole long spiel and they're taking their shirt off in the middle of Target and showing their tits, you're like, what? Okay. And just being like, okay, cool, man, here's my card, come get me, and not being that closed off, like, don't DM me ever, kind of person, and which has kept you busy, it's kept you successful. Yeah. Now you've been doing some real fun stuff with your social media, which is a lot like newer for you, right?
It
like
is,
you're really trying to dive in there and like figure out that art form of like expressing yourself on social media. Like,
I've always loved comedy and just stuff like that, and I've always just been too shy to like do it on social media. And like when Instagram started, it was just pictures. Yeah. We were early adopters, and so there was like, it was just, okay, well, this is for tattoo pictures, and that was all it was. And I love that now it's kind of branching out a little bit more where you can express yourself, and you're not selling just your tattoos anymore, you're selling yourself a little bit more. And it's embarrassing, and it's hard to reconcile that with being like a 40-year-old man, and totally. All of a sudden okay, well, now I have these like and I still have like secondhand embarrassment of like looking at a phone and like talking about a thing. Like, it feels cringy. It's funny because if I see other people do it, I'm like, oh, that's really fun. But when I go to do it, I'm like, but I feel dumb doing it. Like, even though I love watching it, like, so I'm really like struggling with that of like, I still don't have hardly any videos where I talk to the camera. Oh, okay. It's just like captions that I point at. I haven't got quite over the the like, okay, I'm going to speak to it now.
Yeah.
But like I was almost there.
Yeah, I know you'll get there if you want to. You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's also like ways to just express yourself through, like you said, the nonverbal kind of like, video formats or whatever. But yeah, you've had some like success with some. Didn't you do some fun reels that like got some like real big reviews? Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I did. Like one where it was just like doing like a clear stencil, like making a stencil on a bottle bag and like doing it for cover up so you can see exactly where it is.
Oh yeah.
And so I just posted that, and I was like, oh, this was a throwaway thing, like in between posting tattoos, and then it was like 3 or 4 million views. I was like, what just happened? Like, why is that the one that took off? But
no one knows how the algorithm
I don't.
works.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But and then I have kind of like delved into a little bit of like some educational ones and some funny ones, and then some about my tattoos. And I'm really trying to like hone tattoos that I want to do, like communities that I want to speak to, and that's what I've really been trying to focus on. Like,
niche.
I love Disney stuff. I love rock climbing. I love, doing running tattoos, vegan tattoos, like cartoons, comic books, stuff like that. So I really, and like I do a ton of Star Wars tattoos because that's like my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so like I've been trying to make fun reels that involve those things that I like doing.
Attempt to get some exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
Share your, that's dude. You got it.
It's fun. It's fun and scary and like intimidating all at the same time. Like I used to love like skating when I was a kid, and I loved editing skate videos.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Instagram reels, the editing is like similar enough.
Fast moving.
Yeah, where I'm just like, okay, like I kind of I like this idea, so I'm like trying to like take all of my interests and all of my education that I've learned over, years and years of playing with stuff and like put it all together. And
that's fun. Shit. So what do you got for like, other than your traveling? I mean, how do you feel about your tattooing and where you want to take it? Do you have any kind of, what's your vision for like the next? Do you kind of keep your vision short, 2-year visions, or?
Yeah, typically. I mean, I love tattooing people who share interests with me. So I don't like doing huge tattoos. So even like when I do a sleeve, it's like, a bunch of tattoos this size all over. So like, I don't really have ambition to like do big stuff.
Work.
Like it's too stressful and like
palm size is like my fucking limit, dude. I'm like my attention span is 3 to
exactly.
It's really short. So like 3 hours is a lot. To sit down and tattoo.
It is.
I don't know. So.
And so so I like to do small-ish tattoos. But I just love doing stuff that I just love doing things that either I'm or the client is really passionate about.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to be super passionate about it, but if you want to talk to me about it for 2 hours and teach me about it, I'm all about it.
Totally. Yeah. Are you doing a lot of more pre-drawn stuff or no?
No, most of it is like I don't do a lot of like flash that I draw. It's just they give me a description and I draw my version of it. Yeah. That's kind of where it is like my sweet spot where my clientele is, where they're like, here's my idea, I know what you do your version of it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like where I just want to keep pushing that. And I think when I'm traveling, I'll probably push a little bit more of my art because people outside of Vegas don't know me.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll probably do a lot of flash days for that.
Yeah, maybe like any downtime you have in between, just kind of hang out, draw, like anything, and share.
And then I am doing, this summer, I'm doing the literary art convention. And,
tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And it's like the 4th year. They took a little time off of COVID. But it's all book themed and like nerdy pop culture themed tattoo convention.
Whoa.
And
it's like a Comic-Con mashup.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Like tattooers show up in cosplay and they have like a best decorated booth contest, and like
that's
it's really
fun,
it's creative and fun. Yeah. And I've been following it for a few years, but it's almost like invite only type thing. So I was like never applied because I was like, I'm not cool. Like I'm not like a cool person.
What's the name of it again?
Literary art.
Literary art. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We'll have to look that up. Yeah. Okay.
And so like it's like I've never considered myself like a cool tattooer, like I'm just kind of like in my own zone, like do my own thing, and I do tattoos that I think are cool.
Yeah.
But like I don't think I'm like popular, like, and so I just never applied because like I don't know, like the people who go there are like the people who I think are cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't want to like think I'm on their level or anything.
That's not
and
true.
So I just never applied, and then this year I applied and they accepted me, and so
fuck yeah. That's tight. So, that's fun.
So we're gonna road trip over there in the van and
hopefully do some guest spots over there too. Or,
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think I'll probably do some like on the way and on the way back. Yeah,
a little tour, like set up tour dates and stuff. That's fun. Yeah, that's rad. That's cool, man. Yeah. Well, shit. So I don't know. You have anything else you want to talk about, or?
I think that's it.
You're enjoying tattooing in Vegas? You're a Hive Tattoo?
I'm a Hive Tattoo. Yeah, so Swarm built that out. Like him and I built it out together like a few years back.
Do you own it? Or
no, I'm
just help.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything's it's Swarm shop, and then I just like help run it. I'm like manager.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's awesome. Honestly, it's like the best case scenario for me. Like, I kept the same schedule that I had at Stu 21. So, like, I still come in the same days, the same time. But yeah, I just rent a booth there, and then it's Swarm, me. There's a guy, Donnie, young dude, Chris, who's like super talented young dude. We have a dude named Cooper right now who's just guest spotting until he moves to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And he's awesome. But he was working at downtown, and Buddy runs his shop like real strict. Like, you show up at this time, you're here for these hours, like, like.
Oh, okay.
And he was just always late. And so he just Buddy called Storm, and he's like, hey, man,
I got this.
Do you have a booth for like a month? He's an awesome tattooer, but he's just not here on time. And Storm's like, yeah, man, do whatever he wants. And he's super, super nice. And then we hired this new dude, Dan, who does mostly like portrait stuff.
Okay.
Super nice dude. And then we have a dude, Alejandro, on the other side of the shop.
Okay, so you got a full house now?
So there's 7 of us right now. Okay. And then I'm teaching my son to tattoo.
Okay. Yeah. So, shit, that's awesome. So how deep are you into that?
He's just about to start tattooing his friends.
Dang.
Yeah. So he's just about there.
How are you going about that apprenticeship with like?
I did it pretty structured. Like, I literally wrote out, because I actually went to college to be a teacher. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to write out like a proper curriculum and like give it to him. Like, here's the things you need to do to move to the next level. And so we just kind of like worked our way through that. And so he's, and then he knows like what's expected of him.
Okay.
Like, okay, well, I have to get this benchmark before we can move to the next benchmark.
Yeah.
So like he just has little check marks to go through. And so he's been just like tattooing on fake skin and doing a bunch of line work. He's using coil machines right now. I'm teaching him on coil just so he doesn't go to another shop and get made fun of. Basically, that's like the main reason. I'm like, you can use whatever machine you want, but you have to know how to use this.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
And so he's already like taken it apart, put it back together, and Donnie only uses coil machines, and he's really into machine building and tuning and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, you can learn from him, because I haven't touched one of those in a decade. So
my fucking arm hurts from the last time I used one.
Yeah. And so he's learning a bunch from Donnie about how to tune his machines and all of that stuff. And then he's just about, I told him his next benchmark is like make a flash sheet of like just little, quarter-sized designs that he's excited to do.
Yeah.
And then he's going to do a couple on his leg, and then start to invite some friends over.
Dang, yeah. So you got kind of like a couple of years though to get them like tuned up before you take off for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Your goal is to keep coming back.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Right? Yeah.
So.
Sounds like you'll probably like quarterly or at least kind of come back through.
For sure. And so and I think I'm gonna, once he's tattooing like the last part of his apprenticeship, like I'll sign him off, and then I'm like, okay, well now you need to go work in a street shop. For like a year and like just grind out as many tattoos as you can.
Yeah, meet all the weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way Hive is run, it's very niche. Like everything's nerdy. Everything's like, everybody who walks in the door is cool.
Yeah.
Like they all want our tattoos. And I'm like, that's not what you're going to get. You need to understand, like, that's not how tattooing is. Like, we've put in 20 years into this industry. You need to go, like, go where it sucks for a little while, and then when you build some clientele, you can come back and have a booth. But
that's fun. Shit, that's crazy. I had to think about like teaching your kid how to tattoo. I don't know.
It's wild.
Yeah.
When he like reached out and said he wanted to learn, I was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Like it's cool, but it's gonna be hard. You
Yeah.
know, like we have to put you through it a little bit. Like,
Yeah. It's fulfilling too.
Yeah.
It's really cool. That's fun. I talked to Clean Rock One not too long ago, and he taught his son how to tattoo, and his
right,
son is
yeah.
like slaying it, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, he's showing me tattoos. I was like, God damn, bro, like, that's
Yeah.
fucking really beautiful work.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. My dad and I learned how to tattoo at the same time, so
Right,
it's like a whole different like dynamic. And I mean, I was already kind of like into it before, and then he got into
Yeah.
it like shortly after. So
it's so funny because everybody thinks it's
always
Everybody, yeah.
everybody's like, oh, it's so cool. You grew up with your dad as a tattooer. I'm
You're like,
no, he's actually construction. He was in construction.
yeah, exactly. You're like, no, we came together.
Yeah, that's fun. That's crazy stories. But well, I don't know, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and it's like
cool.
it's super fun. We've
We'll
known
have to
each
check
other
back in once I'm traveling and
Yeah.
have some more stories.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I got some other ideas for you too.
Cool.
So. I love you, bud.
Love you.
And thanks so much for coming down, dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Check up on Nick Bones. What's your website?
NickBonesTattoos.com.
Okay, cool.
Very
Is
simple.
that the best place? I mean, I always push people to go.
Yeah, I mean Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram's the easiest, but
At
yeah,
Nick Bones Tattoos.
At Nick Bones Tattoos, all
Yep.
one word, all spelled
All right.
right.
Yeah, get out there, check out his work, catch up on his latest running adventures,
Yeah.
and everything else. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.